breathe life into what brings you joy and what is uniquely yours. And Greta said this, and I love it so much, of like, the lesson of the success of Barbie is that people are weird. And people like weird stuff. So stop trying to make stuff other people would like and just make the weird stuff that you like. Because chances are that other people are going to want to watch that. Hi, Barbies. Hi, Kens. And hi, Alan, if you're out there. Is this on?
Yeah, Midge, yes.
Weird Barbie and Midge and all of you.
I love at the Screen Actor Guild Award when they ask all of some of the actors. They say, you know, when did you know that you wanted to be an actor? So when did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten, and I was in the audience of my sister's 5th grade production of The Wizard of Oz, and she was flying monkey number 3 or whatever. And it was the first time I ever saw a play, or that I can remember ever seeing. It probably was the first time I ever saw a play. And I just remember sitting in my seat, burning inside, and actually like seething with rage and jealousy because nobody had asked me to be a flying monkey. And I think I just like saw kids kind of my age, a little bit older, like on stage singing and dancing and acting and expressing, and it was like, it just clicked. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Wow. And I think I watched your TED Talk. You started at like 15, right?
Yeah, well, I started acting, anywhere I could. I did it in school. I went to public schools in Los Angeles my whole life, and so I only had what was available to me for free. I'm the 6th child of immigrant parents, and my mother was a single mother, and so there was no access, really knowledge or income for acting programs, drama programs, that kind of thing. And so I was at the mercy of whatever was available to me in a public school system, and I was lucky enough to be in a public school that had a drama program. It breaks my heart when I see these drama programs, arts programs being taken out of schools, because I know firsthand that that is, for so many of us, like the only way we get to explore and discover our own talents. And for me, that was certainly the case. And I just did it everywhere and anywhere anyone would let me. And then I ended up getting an agency at, I was about 16, and then I booked my first job, a Disney Channel movie called Gotta Kick It Up. Okay, hey, some people have seen it. Si se puede. Some people think that my husband saying si se puede is throw to Gotta Kick It Up, but it's just the only Spanish my husband knows. He's my real husband. Did you know that? And he's here.
You know, when he came in, I was like, oh my God, that's really him.
That's really him. He's my real husband. Yeah, that's a funny story, if you want to know it. But
please do.
Well, I was just the very first time I was Zooming with Greta, I was telling her all my favorite parts of the script and the parts where I laughed out loud. And I said, oh my God, I started cackling when you cut to the white nerdy husband learning Spanish, because my husband is literally in the other room taking a Spanish lesson. And she was like, oh my God, does he want to play the part? And she meant it. And he said yes. So that's him.
Oh.
There he is.
Yes.
Yeah. I forget the question you first asked me, but hey, here we are.
This is better than my question. But going back to before Greta, you were on Zoom with Greta. How did you find out about this project? I mean, was it something you had heard about, or was this like a traditional, your agent sent you the script?
Yeah, I remember like at one point, like much earlier in the year, my agent saying something like, oh, we're talking about you for Barbie. And I was like, what? Like, okay. I wasn't paying attention, so I didn't know that it was Greta and Margot. I was just kind of like, okay, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I forgot about it. And then months later in the year, like October of 2021, Greta reaches out personally and sends me the script, sends an email, and says, like, I wrote a Barbie script, like, hear me out. and I've written this part, Gloria, and I wrote this aria for her. She called it an aria, the Gloria aria monologue, and I hear your voice. I hear you saying this, and so she reached out, and it was it was one of those moments that you dream of. And to be perfectly frank, I just kind of stopped expecting. Like, I stopped expecting the phone to ring and it to be some incredible filmmaker that you admire so much saying, like, I've got this fabulous part and I want it to be you. I was actually prepping and working on the first feature that I'm going to direct later this year. Thank you. And I read this, and I was thrilled to read it. I was a huge fan of Greta's work, and as an actress, as a writer, as a director, and also a huge fan of Margot's. I just think she brings so much depth and warmth and intelligence to every role she steps into. Like, how dare she be so beautiful and talented and smart and all the things. Still not convinced she's a human being. We had to make a movie to convince people that she's a human now. But I was such a fan of these two women, and I thought, I'm really curious about what they're going to do with this. And, sat down, read the script, and, laughing 2 lines into the movie, laughing and then crying and then laughing and then crying. And, I had no connection to Barbie. I didn't play with Barbies growing up. Like, Barbie didn't represent me. We couldn't afford Barbies. Like, Barbie was not the thing for me. So I didn't.
It was expensive.
Right?
It was.
And then you needed all her stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all her toys and, like, her car and her camper and it was a lot. So my cousin had Barbies, but it just wasn't it wasn't what I related to. And so, to be someone who kind of came in without that context, and I think a lot of audience members have had that experience, like, what does this have to do with me, right? And I remember the moment for me in the script, I was laughing from page 1 on, but when you get to, on the page, Greta had written, cut to, close up on a pair of bright pink sneakers underneath a desk. Pan out to find Gloria, mid-30s, dressed in a corporate suit, and and it said on the page, we love her immediately. And I did love her immediately. I loved, and I could not believe, like, the moment that I realized the way Gloria realizes in the movie, like, this movie's about us. Yeah. Like, we get to be in this movie, like a grown adult woman, mom, working person, like, our perspective is in this. And I just remember feeling so elated that this had fallen into Greta's hands, because she loves telling stories about women and adult women, and she loves telling stories about mother-daughter relationships, and this movie could have been so many things. Yeah. Think about the 99 other versions of this movie. I just felt like, when I put the script down, like, we are so lucky, as women, as film lovers, as people in this moment in the world, to get this version of the film. So just as, even if I hadn't been asked to be a part of it, I was just so gleeful that this was the movie that was going to be made. And then, of course, out of my mind, excited that I got to be a part of it.
Thank you for that. So speaking of the aria, the monologue, we're here with your acting peers. So what was your process in delivering it? Did you nail it in the first take, or?
No, absolutely not. The process, we shot, it's a big scene with like 12 other actors, and you're doing tons of coverage. And I did the speech top to bottom every time we turned the camera this way, that way, around. So I would guess I did it like somewhere between 30 and 50 times. I did that speech beginning to end. And we shot it for 2 days because it's a very big scene. It was riveting. It was that feeling, I think, that we as actors are constantly looking for, like the kind of material that gets you into a place where it forces you to be present with it. And throughout the filming, Greta had such specific ideas, and she has such an ear for how she hears things, how she writes things, and the comedy of it. And sometimes she would close her eyes and make us run a scene, and she could just listen, and then when we got it, she's like, that's it, that's the one. And so we had very specific kind of direction throughout, dialogue wise. And so I assumed that this might be similar. And the other thing I assumed was that, like, I'm sure we're gonna cover ourselves and get like a Barbie version of this speech, right? Like the part that's like you're saying the truth, but you're saying it with a smile. So it's like, don't be, threatened or anything. And I just assumed, like, do you want this to be funny? And Greta was just like, I want it to be the way that it comes out of you. I want it to be true to you, and I want it to be real. And so with that permission, I was a little scared, because one of the challenges in the whole film is, like, my daughter and I are representing the entire human race. Like, you're welcome. In Barbie Land. You had no say in it, but I represented you in Barbie Land. And my job was to stay human in a world, in a set, in a process where everybody else is like Barbies, and Kens, and larger than life, and the sets and the lights and the music and you want to play, but you're like, oh wait, I'm the human. Like, my job is actually to ground down and be a human in this world. And so that wasn't always easy. And particularly with this monologue, I felt like, how is this going to fit into the larger tone? But luckily I had all the faith in Greta. She gave me all her faith and permission, which meant that I got to just drop in and explore moment to moment. And like I said, we did it 50 times or close to, and we did all kinds of versions of it. Moments where it ended in laughter, where it ended in tears, where it got big, where it got small, where we did it all the ways, and I just had to trust, and luckily had the full trust that Greta knew how this was going to fit in and how it was going to work. But it's, it is a moment where kind of the record stops and you're like, wait, is this Barbie? But Greta knew what she was doing, and luckily I could just trust her.
Yeah, it was, no offense to people who love pink, but it made the pink forgivable, because, in the lead up to it, it was going to be like, I know personally, I thought it was just going to be like Plastic Barbie, and especially, no offense to Margot Robbie, but I had an idea of what it was going to be. I thought I had an idea, but when your scene came, I was like, oh, this is real. Like, to your point, this is a real movie. And what it did, and I don't know about anybody else in the audience, so I have a 13-year-old, and our now inside joke is the word patriarchy. And we use it to explain her father's bad behavior when he doesn't want to wash dishes. Because she was like, he's not been doing anything. I was like, remember, Ken, patriarchy? And she's like, okay. And then also, I had to explain to her what a gynecologist was.
She's 13.
She's 13.
She should know what a gynecologist is.
But I'm curious, because for me and my family, it sparked some very real conversations. But what have been some fans or people that have come up to you and told you what it sparked for them?
It's so awesome to get to, as an actor, to get to be face to face all the time with people who share with you what the impact of the work is and the movie. And I've heard from teenage boys and teenage girls and men and women and non-binary folks and young and old and all kinds of people, what they took from the film. And particularly in that monologue, it did spark conversation. I think for a lot of women and a lot of mothers, they felt seen.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because people, there are a lot of people who are like, oh, yeah, but that's nothing new. Like, this is Feminism 101. And it's like, yes, it is. And it was banned from multiple countries. Like, Feminism 101 in a Barbie movie is still, like, bannable. Mm-hmm. It's still a revolution, the threading the needle of telling a movie that can be a global success and a hit, where you're trying to infuse ideas in many different kinds of cultures that have very strong aversions to it. I mean, we had our own version of that here in the U.S. People who really, really did not like parts of what it was saying, and so it did spark conversation. I love that I've seen so many like groups of teenage boys dressed in pink watching this movie like 5 times, which I think is awesome. I think they feel really seen by Ken. I don't know, like great. And I've seen 90-year-old women in the audience like weeping, or I've seen 10-year-old girls asking their mothers like, is that how you feel?
Yeah.
Or one of my favorite moments of feedback, there was a woman journalist who said she took her elderly father with her to see the movie, and that she looked over and he was like sobbing, and she was like, "What? Why?" He's like, "I recognize that for you, for your mom, and I recognize that for you." And a lot of people who came out feeling like they wanted to go like hug their moms or like say thank you to their mom. And that was a conversation that we had. Greta's a mom, I'm a mom. We talked a lot about being mothers. But there's so much mothering happening in the film. There's Gloria and Sasha, but then there's that moment where Sasha's mothering Gloria, where she says to her, like, I know you're weird, dark, and crazy, and I love that you're weird, dark, and crazy. Like, be all of those things. And Ruth as a mother to her actual real daughter and Barbie, and just the kind of like that sort of divine feminine love that has the ability to transform, that isn't just about the literal relationship of mother-daughter, but that can exist kind of globally, was something that we talked a lot about and that I know is really important to Greta.
Yeah. Before you arrived, me and one of the workers here, she gave me the perfect word. She was like, you were the heroine of the movie. So did you have to keep that a secret, or was it something you, after the movie came out, I mean, you saved Barbie? Yeah. Did you, I mean...
I did. You're welcome. I toppled patriarchy. I did all the things. It was a little bit of a secret, yeah, because nobody knew what the movie was about, you know? I think that, I mean, my God, they should be teaching entire courses in marketing just around this movie. But like, you know, there was buzz about this movie I've never been a part of something that had so much anticipation and excitement before anybody even knew what it was, right? And just, I think people just knowing that there was a Barbie movie coming directed by Greta, that intrigued people. And then pictures of like Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie in pink spandex was very exciting to people. And then there was that like filter where everyone's like, you know, this Barbie's making banana bread or whatever. Like like leading up to the movie coming out, there was so much excitement, and we didn't give anything away, which was kind of amazing, because then people got to discover the film, and people came in with expectations and preconceptions of what it would be, and then they got to be surprised. And how often are we actually surprised in cinematic experiences anymore, because they tell us everything in the, you know, so it's like, you know, they held back, and I think it really paid off.
Yeah. Now, I also was listening to a podcast with you, and you know, we don't see your character, you know, till midway to the movie, but you were there learning the dances. You were on set. Is that common as an actor to kind of be there for scenes you're not needed in?
It's common for me.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's common for all actors. It was a very intoxicating, fun set to be a part of. You know, I think, you know, as an actress, it felt right to me that, you know, to be kind of immersed in the feeling of it, and in, you know, the kind of giddiness and that sheer adrenaline rush and energy of like 60 girls learning choreography in a room, you know, and like in a basement at a sleepover. Like, it's such a specific energy, and it's one that Gloria as a character values, hungers, and is actually fighting for. Yeah. You know, to me, this is a story about a grown adult woman, or even just human. I don't even think you have to be woman to understand the perspective of a grown adult person who loves and values something that is imperfect, right? It's imperfect, but but she connected to it as a child, and it always meant something to her. She needed to find the permission to love what she loves. She needed to find the permission to value what she values, and also to allow herself to have some fun. As we we're often portrayed and thought to think of ourselves as martyrs, and mothers are in the backgrounds of the pictures, and we're the long-suffering wife or the mom who's cleaning up. But when do we get to be like the center of the story? And not just for our trauma, but for our joy and for our fun. And that felt to me like that is what this character is seeking. She's seeking to re-enchant her life with something that continued to mean something to her.
Going back to working with Greta, because I also heard that in the monologue you were able to contribute, but did she ask for your help in adding a line?
Or
how was that?
Yes, one of the first things that she said to me was like, she was like, well, what would you say? Like, what would you say in your own words? And, there aren't a lot of directors who go around asking their actors to rewrite their work. And she wasn't asking me to rewrite it, but she really wanted to know. And so I did. And there were some parts of that really resonated with her, particularly the line, like, always be grateful. That was something that came out of our conversations with each other, and she took that and then she expanded into it, always be grateful, but never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. Mm-hmm. And that came out of like our work and our conversation together. And, we spent a lot of time, but by the time I came out and said these words, there was so much kind of support and conversation and reference points underneath each line. We had shared articles about how, about like women and their confidence, articles about like how people feel about women running for office. We shared television episodes, poetry, memes, and, we were seeing like where the essence of what Gloria is saying really exists in the culture, and where it's really bubbling up all around us, this feeling of the impossible assignment that so many of us carry with us to be all the things, that we're aiming for something that is not possible. And what would it mean to release ourselves of the assignment? And we did so much talking about it and attaching it to the real world that by the time I said those lines, we had really like put pillars underneath every single one of them,
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Thank you. Before we wrap up, two more questions. You share a lot of screen time with Margot. You've talked about her working as an actor, but what was it like on the other side when she was as a producer?
Yeah, she's remarkable. I mean, she's an incredibly hard-working person. She's the first one in the makeup chair in the morning, before the lights turn on. She's the last one on set. She's on notes calls and phone calls and producer calls and daily calls. And like, she's giving this beautiful performance, and she's moving back and forth between all of it. And I never once ever even saw her like make a face. Like I can't stop my face from doing things. Like if I'm annoyed or tired and I'm like, yeah, of course I'll do that again. Like, I can't hide it. I guess I'm not really that great of an actress, but no, I like to say that I'm not a great liar. And I think there's a difference between lying and acting. Yes. But Margot, she just is such a professional and such a wonderful actress and such a generous actress, and went out of her way to make the set feel wonderful and lovely and alive. And she was great.
Another great thing about this film is the music.
Unbelievable.
So I was just curious, what's been your favorite bop?
Oh man. I love them so much. I can't even tell you how many times I've listened to the Barbie album. My kids, they love it too. It's unfortunate that my son's favorite song is Ryan's version of Push. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted you to take from this movie. I wanna push you. I'm like, no.
Patriarchy.
No. but we listened to a lot of it. The music is unbelievable. It's like impossible to pick a favorite. It's all so layered, and I mean that. What was I made for song? Like, you know. And here's the thing: is like, I think that what I think people are feeling when they're watching this movie is all of the love and the energy and the enthusiasm for telling a human story that Greta Gerwig has. Yeah. And she found a way to surround herself with incredible artisans, like the best of the best, right? On every level. DP, production designer, hair, makeup, wardrobe, sound editing, Mark Ronson, you know? And what she did was she like infected them with her love and joy and was like, you are gonna use all of your excellence and experience towards child's play. And it was a gift for every artist to be like, I'm being asked to return to the core of like what I love with my skill and with all my experience. And that is such an incredible gift. And so I do think that is what's resonating. And when it comes to like Mark Ronson, I remember the moment the Barbies and me had been rehearsing the Barbie dance. I, for the record, did not need to learn the Barbie dance, but I did. I'd wait for Margot to get called away to like, you know, take a phone call, and I'd be like, I can do it. And I could, and I did. And I remember that the Barbies were going to do the dance for Mark, and they had been rehearsing it to the like track that he had sent. It was just like a very raw track that sounded great to us, but it was like, you know, not the whole song. And I remember him watching it, and I just like saw the like gleam in his eye and the smile on his face, and like a little bit of tears. And I remember him being like, oh my God, I gotta go step it up. You know, like this is amazing, more than I could have imagined. And that's like, I think the magic was that it was a bunch of people trying to play the best that they could play. Mm-hmm. And it all started with Greta and went out from there.
Wow. And now that it's done, what did you take working on this experience that you're now going to apply to your directorial debut?
Oh my God. Well, a lot. I think the example of Greta and the joy and the enthusiasm, you know, to never lose the joy of it. You know, I think that it's not an easy business. It's not an easy career. None of it's easy. The work is hard. The hours are long. Like, it's easy to get jaded. It's easy to get beaten down a little bit. It's easy to get upset when things don't go your way, or, you know, we're all just human and we feel those things. And I think the thing that I, you know, want to take away is like the essence of what got us all here. Like, why are we here? Why do we call ourselves actors? Why do we call ourselves artists? Like, we can stay connected to the unique thing that started us on our journey, that thing that like came alive when I was 5 watching The Wizard of Oz. Like, as artists, it's almost our job to tend to that channel, to that connection, like breathe life into what brings you joy and what is uniquely yours. And Greta said this, and I love it so much, of like the lesson of the success of Barbie is that people are weird. And people like weird stuff. Mm-hmm. So stop trying to make stuff other people would like and just make the weird stuff that you like. Because chances are that other people are going to want to watch that.
That's true. Thank you, America.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.